and I'm going to disconnect the proportioner from the booster pump if you want to come over here and look. So I'm going to disconnect the proportioner from the booster pump. I was thinking I had to connect it to there. So I'm going to disconnect the booster pump from the proportioner. I'm going to take my inlet hose and I'm going to connect it directly to the proportioner. Okay? I'm going to make sure that my clamps here are tight so that the air can get out. I'm going to take my outlet. You see we've made some little holes here for the water to run out. I'm going to connect it to the outlet of my 12-volt pump. Now you can do a couple of different ways, and this is the easy way to do this, to prime the proportioner, because you're probably going to have to reprime the proportioner. You'll see, because there's air here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my transfer pump. I'm going to shut all my valves off. I'm going to open up the water. And I want to prime my water valve. So I'm going to turn on the transfer pump, and if you watch this line here, you'll see the air come through. So I'm going to turn on the transfer pump. It's going to start priming. You can see it's sucking into the booster pump, into the 12-volt pump, and now it's going to come out of this hose. So I'm going to watch to make sure I got the air out of the line. All right, so now you see all the air just got out of the line from the proportioner on that. So my next step, I'm going to open my detergent, and I'm going to do the same thing. I got to get the air out of the line right there. So the air just came out. You can see a little bit running through here. Now I'm going to open my SH, and I'm going to do the same thing. You'll see a tiny bit of air coming through. See, there it goes. Okay, so now that's all done. So now I know everything is primed. I'm going to shut these valves back off. I'm going to take this hose here, and I'm just going to run it over the top of the skid here. And on the outlet of the, on the inlet of the garden hose here, you can see that there is a garden hose fitting. So we can actually just take the 12-volt pump, connect it directly to this garden hose fitting. All right, so this is the booster pump hose and this is the 12-volt hose. I can actually come over here now and you can see with the same proportioner, I can turn on my transfer pump, I can turn my water up, my SH, and now I'm using the proportioner with the 12-volt system. And you can do the same thing for changing your ratios. Turn your bleach up, do your marker, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Turn it back. Apparently there's a fire in the neighborhood. So now we're using the 12-volt system to apply with our proportioner. Okay, that's the simplest way. If you want to use it just for transferring, you can put that in whatever tank you want. So that's the transfer pump system. On the booster pump itself here, you're going to see there's a little knob. This is your regulator which sets your pressure. Ideally, you want to have about 1/4 inch of threads exposed, about like that. And that's about the ideal pressure for where you want that set. If it's too far down, you won't get any water and bypass. What you may notice is that this hose right here may go flat. That's okay, that's perfectly normal. When you let off the trigger, if you actually squeeze it, what you'll do is you'll feel the swell a little bit and it recirculates similar to a pressure washer. Now, that being the case, you don't want to set the gun down and walk away for 20 minutes because it's going to superheat this water in here and begin to break down the impellers and the discs that are inside here. So just like a pressure washer, after about a minute or two, you're going to want to squeeze the trigger for about 30 to 45 seconds to bring some fresh, cool water in there to keep this from getting any damage. If you do have to rebuild this, the impeller kit is anywhere from about, I think it's right around $100 to $125 for the impeller kit. Now, at the end of the day, right now we've been running off our SH. At the end of the day, we want to make sure we flush out our proportioner. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this valve right here to water. And what that's going to do, the only thing that changes is your SH valve. Your water is still your water, your bleach is still your bleach. So if I want to use this for rinsing, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to reconnect the booster pump. And I'm going to show you how we can change this if we want to rinse with the booster pump. So now what's going to happen is we're going to have to actually reprime this booster pump. We're going to disconnect this. We're going to change it right back to the booster pump. We disconnect our garden hose off the reel here. Reconnect our booster pump hose, which is what's nice about the garden hose connector here. It doesn't get rusty and corroded like a regular quick connect. It's really easy to work with. Okay, so we're reconnected. We're going to take our booster pump here. We're going to turn it on. And what we're going to do is we're going to close our detergent valve. We're going to open our water valve and our SH valve. And you see it's kind of weak right now. It's not sucking very good. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to reprime it. There we go. So we reprimed it to get the air out of the system. So now what we're doing is we're actually bringing fresh water in through there. We're sucking water on the water valve and we're sucking water on the SH valve. I've turned my detergent off because when I rinse it, I don't want to keep spraying soap on. This will allow you to rinse. You know, it's pretty windy, but you can see you get some good distance out of it. If I want to rinse with a lot of pressure on the house, I can just turn the valve over to feeding directly from the garden hose, and you'll actually feel the boost in pressure. So we flushed out the proportioner. We're all set. You can actually, if you want to, leave your valves in a set position where you normally would have them. I typically tell people just close them up at the end of the night because then you don't have to worry about any type of backflow issues, even though there are check those on there. So that's how the proportioner works in relation to the booster pump and the transfer pump. Your directional system, it's pretty simple. Pushing the buttons, when you double press buttons, it'll change the pattern and you can see what it's doing there on the screen. Okay, you can go direct traffic left or right. You can direct traffic left. You can make it go both ways. By hitting it double, you can change the pattern. You can change the speed right here. So all the controls are there, and if you want to look at the back, you can actually see how that works on the back. This has a reset breaker on it. This breaker controls the directional lights, the lights for the spotlights, as well as the booster or the RODI booster pump, the transfer pump, and the chemical applicator pump, the precision soft wash power bright applicator pump. That works off this breaker here, which is these two pumps right here. So you have two breakers for that. If you look at the back lights, you can kind of see when I hit the button how it changes the pattern. Depending on what you want to do, if I want to go right, I can change the speed fast, or I can go slow. All right, RODI system. You have several valves on the RODI system, and the way it works is the water comes in from the garden hose, and let's go over to the garden hose first, and I'll show you how to power this particular system. So what you're going to do with this, number one, you got to make sure that your main water valve is to the proportioner, because that basically shuts off the water. If it's to the tank, the only way you're going to make your pure water system work is if the water tank is completely full. So we're going to turn it to the proportioner, or to the booster pump, which allows us to basically shut that water off. Then on the side over here, we have another valve. This is the valve that actually feeds the RODI system. I'm going to open that up. And what you're going to actually see, we come around the back here, you'll actually see it start to dump water out of the RO dump. Now you can connect the hose on there to run it to the ground or whatever, and that's the dump valve for the RO. We have our DI at the bottom and the RO. Right now those are actually shut off, that's why nothing's coming out. So the water comes in, goes through a carbon filter, comes out of the carbon filter, runs into the RODI, or the RO filters, which there's two of them in here, comes out of there. What's going to happen is it's an inner filter and an outer filter. The water comes through and forces the good water through the filter that can continue on to be used as pure water or go into the DI, and the bad water goes out and dumps out. That's the less pure water. On this system here, you're going to see we have a TDS meter. So what I can do is turn it on. Now in is your RO. So right now, what's coming out of the RO filter is a 9 parts per million. That's actually considered spot free. Anything under 14 parts per million would be considered spot free, which would allow you to do that. If you want to process additional water, you're not getting enough water out of what you need. This pump actually boosts it, and you'll see the pressure goes up. That actually boosts the process pressure. Now, to control that pressure, over on the side here, it's kind of hard to see. There's a little tag hanging down. There's a valve right here. And as I open and close this valve, what will happen is, if you look at the gauge over here, as I close the valve, you'll see the pressure starts to rise. And what that does is that forces the water into the inner filter on the RO cartridge so that you can process more water and have less waste. So if you're going back here and look, you see how the waste reduces? Now I'm going to open it up and drop the process pressure. You see how much more comes out? So what I'm doing is I'm not processing as much water through the RO cartridge. So we're going to set that right at about 80 psi. That's going to give us, we're not going to overtax the filter, but we're still going to get a good amount of water. That's how we do that. Now, you see I have the N. Well, we're actually coming out at 4 parts per million right now. So we have really good starting water here. So we get really good results out of RO. If you got really bad water in the area, that might be 24 parts or 30 parts per million. So then you're going to have to run through a DI, which is the out. That gives us the reading, and if you can see the little meters here, these are the little probes that do the sensing. There's another one up here for right here. That's your in, that's coming out of the RO filter. Now you're going to see 2 valves here.
Here's the valve that you were turning before.
Right. And that's right in the back here. You can see a little tagging in it. Now, coming off the RO filter, you're going to see there's 2 valves here. This one's got some red on it. This one is just got black on it. This is your RO. So if I want RO water, I'm going to open this valve for my RO water, which would be, what we actually do is we want to select which one we want to use. So I'm going to take my hose that goes up to my hose reel, and I'm going to put my hose on there. There's my dump water. This would connect to your water fed pole with the guard nose connection. So if I want RO only water, I'm going to have this valve open right here. So now what would happen is, going through that, I can turn this pump on, and you'll see I'm going to process more water, and it'll be coming out of here in a second. There we go. So now you can see with the pump on how much water pressure I have. If I turn the pump off, you can see it still works, but I have very little water pressure. So it might not work for your water fed pole. You may have to force feed it depending on what your water is coming in, your pressure coming in and out. So right now that's RO water. Okay, so that RO water right now is 4 parts per million. If that was over 14, what I would want to do is I want to use DI water, so it's pure water. So I'm going to take this RO one. I'm actually going to close it because I don't want to use the RO, and I would actually open the DI one. But before I open that up, what I want to do is switch this line over here. And you can see I'm still processing water through the RO membrane. I'm going to switch this line over here to the DI, which is on the bottom. Tighten it up. Now I'm ready for DI water. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to open my DI valve. And you'll see coming out of the DI, I'm at 0 parts per million. And if you look at the line, now this is just with garden hose pressure. You see it's barely moving. So I'll have to turn on the booster pump to boost through the RO. And there's probably some air in the system. It might take a minute for it to get out of the DI. And when I turn that on, that'll actually boost the pressure and give me more. Oh, it'd also help if I had this tight. There we go. So now you're going to see it's going to slowly build pressure. That's with the booster pump, which is about what you want for water fed pole, maybe even a little extra. If I turn off the booster pump, what you'll see is it slowly start to drop and barely trickle out of there. So that's how you work the RO system. I think we pretty much covered everything here on this skid. This is the Precision Soft Wash Super Skid Ultimate Deluxe Package. It has just about everything on it that we could think of to put on it, and then some. This is a property of Column Vision of Precision Power Wash and Soft Wash. And we're really happy to make this for you, Column. We hope you enjoy the system. And Paul from Power Wash Store. Thank you.
And Bill.